America, land of opportunity. At least that's the story we tell ourselves. But somewhere along the way, that narrative started to crumble. Factories closed, jobs disappeared, the middle class felt squeezed. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, China was booming. A sleeping giant had awakened. They were manufacturing everything. Their economy was growing at an astonishing rate. This wasn't just about economics, it was about pride, power, and the future of the world order. America, used to being top dog, was starting to feel threatened. The stage was set for a confrontation. Two economic titans with vastly different ideologies and ambitions were on a collision course. Something had to give. Enter Donald Trump, a man who understood branding, if nothing else. He tapped into America's economic anxieties like a skilled surgeon wielding a scalpel. "Make America great again," he declared. It was a simple slogan, but a powerful one. It promised to bring back jobs, to restore America's dominance, to stick it to China. The people cheered. They were tired of feeling left behind. They wanted someone to fight for them. And Trump, with his brash style and his promises of economic vengeance, seemed like the answer to their prayers. He pointed the finger at China, blaming them for stealing jobs, manipulating currency, and unfairly competing in the global market. Trade deficits became the enemy. Tariffs became the weapon. But while America was busy pointing fingers, China was busy building. They were laying the foundations for a future that many in the West couldn't even imagine. They invested heavily in infrastructure, technology, and education. Universities were equipped with cutting-edge technology, and students were encouraged to innovate and think big. They played the long game, patiently building their economy and expanding their global influence. Ports were bustling with activity, and the skyline of their cities transformed dramatically. They poured money into research and development, becoming leaders in fields like artificial intelligence, renewable energy, and 5G technology. Laboratories buzzed with groundbreaking research, and renewable energy projects dotted the landscape. They created their own digital currency, challenging the dominance of the US dollar. Digital transactions became the norm, and the financial landscape began to shift. China wasn't just catching up, their tech hubs were bustling with activity, and their cities were becoming symbols of modernity and progress. They were starting to overtake America in key areas. Charts and graphs began to show a new reality, one where China was no longer in the shadow of the West. The sleeping giant was now wide awake, and it was hungry. The dragon, once a symbol of myth, was now a representation of China's insatiable drive for progress. The world watched with a mixture of awe and apprehension. News outlets around the globe covered China's meteoric rise, and world leaders took note. China's rise was undeniable, but its ambitions remained opaque. Conversations in boardrooms and government offices revolved around what China's next move might be. Were they a partner or a rival? Diplomats and policymakers debated the nature of China's intentions. A friend or a foe? The duality of China's role on the world stage became a topic of intense discussion. The answer, it seemed, was complex and constantly evolving. As China continued to grow and change, so too did the world's perception of this rising power. Trade war shots fired. In 2018, the simmering tensions finally boiled over. Trump slapped tariffs on billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, claiming it was necessary to protect American jobs and intellectual property. China retaliated with tariffs of their own, targeting American products like soybeans, cars, and aircraft. The trade war had begun. It was a game of economic chicken, with each side trying to outmaneuver the other. Global markets shuddered. Businesses on both sides of the Pacific felt the pain, and consumers faced higher prices for everything from washing machines to iPhones. Fallout and resilience. The trade war dragged on for years. The US economy took a hit, with manufacturing jobs lost and businesses struggling to cope with the uncertainty. Farmers in particular were hit hard by Chinese retaliatory tariffs. But China, despite some initial setbacks, proved to be more resilient than many had expected. They diversified their trade partners, boosted domestic consumption, and continued to invest in key technologies. The trade war exposed the vulnerabilities of both economies, but it also highlighted China's growing strength and determination. It became clear that this was not just a trade war, it was a battle for global economic supremacy. Tech titans clash. The rivalry between the US and China wasn't just about tariffs and trade deficits. It was a multifaceted competition that extended far beyond traditional economic measures. It was also about technology. The race to dominate the tech landscape became a central battleground. Both countries recognized that technological dominance would be crucial in shaping the 21st century. The stakes were incredibly high as the winner would set the standards for the future. China poured billions into artificial intelligence, quantum computing, and biotechnology. Their investments were strategic, aiming to leapfrog existing technologies and create new paradigms. They became a leader in 5G technology, which is considered the backbone of the future internet. This technology promised faster speeds and more reliable internet connections, revolutionizing how we connect. The backbone of the future internet. This infrastructure was essential for the next generation of technological advancements, from smart cities to autonomous vehicles. They launched ambitious space exploration programs, aiming to establish a presence on the moon and beyond. These efforts were not just about exploration but also about asserting technological prowess, challenging America's long-held dominance in space. The new space race was on, with both nations vying for supremacy in the final frontier. The US, while still a technological powerhouse, found itself in a position where it had to defend its lead. American companies continued to innovate, but the competition was fiercer than ever. Grew increasingly concerned about China's rapid advancements. The pace at which China was catching up was alarming to many in the US tech industry. They accused Chinese companies of stealing intellectual property and engaging in unfair trade practices. These accusations led to a series of legal battles and heightened tensions, and engaging in unfair trade practices. The trade wars that ensued were not just about economics but also about securing technological futures. They restricted Chinese investment in sensitive sectors, aiming to protect national security and maintain a technological edge, and sought to limit the global reach of Chinese tech giants like Huawei. The battle for technological supremacy was far from over, and the world watched as these two titans clashed. The future of global power. The economic rivalry between the US and China is far from over. This competition is not just about trade or technology, it encompasses military strength, cultural influence, and geopolitical strategies. It is a complex, multifaceted competition that will continue to shape the global landscape for decades to come. The stakes are high and the outcomes are uncertain, affecting not just these two nations but the entire world. The world is no longer dominated by a single superpower. The dynamics of global power have shifted, creating a more intricate and interconnected international system. China's rise has created a new era of multipolarity, with multiple centers of power vying for influence. This shift has led to new alliances and rivalries, reshaping global politics and economics. The future will be defined by how these two economic giants navigate this new reality. Their decisions will impact global trade, technological advancements, and even cultural exchanges. Will they find ways to cooperate on shared challenges like climate change and pandemics? Collaboration could lead to groundbreaking solutions that benefit all of humanity. Or will their rivalry escalate into a new Cold War, dividing the world into competing blocs? Such a scenario could lead to increased tensions and conflicts, affecting global stability. The answers to these questions will determine not just the economic fate of the US and China, but the future of the entire planet. The choices made today will echo through history, shaping the world for generations to come.